Howdy, 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 everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody okay? Everybody on the green side of the grass. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Yeah, been a rough day in the markets, I see. Heck, the Nikkei just opened less than an hour, well, about an hour ago now, and already is down 7%. Yay, medicine. Anyway, we'll go through some things tonight. Obviously, markets are not predicted to do very well in the near future, but it is good to keep a perspective, and I'm hoping that some of the things we'll go over tonight will put some things in perspective. And, you know, when we go through some pain, if you look back and you think, if I had just stuck it out, or if I had found some way like what DJ does and doing some extra work to put some money in the market when it is down, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do better. Anyway, we'll go over some things about that. Also going to go through some changes that we have hopefully coming in the next month or two. So I'll go over that as well. And I actually need to bring up my description because I had a bunch of things I was going to talk about tonight, and now I've already forgotten. Let's see. I'll talk about the 5090. Actually do a peel of that. Try to do an ASMR peel. See how that works. I talked about that. I'll talk about a little bit about how I did with Vast. I did have my best week ever last week, so I'll go over those numbers. Maybe after I'm done with the stream, I'll stay online and actually try to get the 5090 up and running on Vast. But first, test to make sure it has all the ROPs. If you remember, 5090s were shipping without all the ROPs, meaning inactive parts of the core. And I want to make sure that I'm getting all 176, I believe it was. It's either 172 or 170. Yeah, it's 176 because it declines by 8. If there's a problem, it'll say 168. If there isn't, it'll say 176. But I'll also need to change out a power supply. Anyway, that'll all be at the very end. And hey, and don't forget, if you haven't done your taxes yet, need to still do those as well as I do. I got my father-in-law's and my father's done. I have, that's right. My daughter never called me today. We were going to do taxes today and then it never happened. Anyway, but my son's taxes are done. So all I need to do is finish mine. Mine are mostly done except for the crypto part. So the tough part with the business side of things is already done. So it shouldn't be too hard to finish it up. I mean, the idea is that you do subscribe to something like Koinly or CoinLedger or Aware, to make it easier. I've just been procrastinating like crazy. But I'm pretty sure it will not change my taxes at all. I didn't have that much in the way of gains, and I did have some carryover losses. So I think I will not have any change to my taxes at all. Although, now that I say that, I may go back, and probably will actually go back and recategorize last year, trying to get more gains rather than more losses. There's a reason for that. So before I start going to the main part, I've been doing a lot of research about a lot of different things. I'll cover that at the very beginning. So as you may or may not have heard, my father did pass away this past Wednesday. He was 89 years old. He passed away in his sleep. It was somewhat expected, still makes it difficult. But the reason why I bring that up is the way I kind of cope is by researching different things, just keeping my mind busy. And one of the things that I did research was, you know, when I inherit, it's not going to be a ton, but it is going to be significant enough that it matters. And he has IRAs. And I always wondered, I'm like, how is that handled? And so once you turn, depending on when you turn the age, it's either 72, 73, or 75, as far as when you need to take required minimum distributions. So my father was 89, so he was well into having to take required minimum distributions. Well, this year, He died partway through the year. He has not taken all of his required minimum distributions, but yet his estate is going to be distributed between myself, my sister, and my brother. So I was trying to figure out how can we retroactively do the minimum distributions from his accounts and have it count towards his taxes, or are we going to have to do it? Well, the answer to that is we're going to have to do that. But yet we can all take equal amount of responsibility of doing that required minimum distribution. So anyway, the long story of that with taxes is I want a little bit more income in last year if I can, because this year I'm going to have a little bit more income because I'm going to be required to do this minimum distribution. So my taxable income will be higher this year, assuming, hey, who knows with the way the economy is going, who's going to have jobs by the end of the year. I certainly hope to, since I'm in logistics and still got to be able to transport goods, and warehouse them. So I have to go under that assumption that, yeah, my income, written income will be more. Now, one of the other things I did think of was I'm not maxing out my 401k currently. And what I can do is I can offset the minimum distributions with withdrawals from my paycheck so that my actual taxable income won't change as a result of having to take these required minimum distributions from the inherited IRA. And oh, by the way, yes, when you inherit the IRA, you actually open up something called an inherited IRA. So there was a couple of videos that I watched. There was one in particular, which I didn't even plan on talking about this tonight, but it just kind of made me think of it when we started talking about taxes. But there was one particular video that covered everything. And I was like, thank you, somebody who covers everything, because they talk about once you've also inherited the IRA, you then are required to take required minimum distributions. Plus, you have to deplete that IRA in 10 years. So you obviously would want to spread that to stay in a lower tax bracket. You would want to spread that over those 10 years. So my goal is to increase my 401k withdrawals or even deposits into an IRA and maximize all of that, but basically just offset by the required minimum distribution or the equal distribution that I'd be taking from it. And obviously with the markets the way they are, was there any concern about his accounts? No, not really, because he moved himself into bonds, being an area of safety. He was of the belief that Biden was not going to be good for the market, so he moved into bonds, basically 100% into bonds. So that has worked out very fortunately in this time period when we're kind of a little bit in limbo as far as everything going on. But anyway, I still need to finish my taxes, but I will be going back and doing it a little bit differently, trying to maximize my long-term capital gains while also staying below that 94,000 so that I don't get taxed on any of those long-term capital gains. That will definitely be my goal. All right. What next? Well, let's do the ASMR. Let me see if I can remember which one. And is this on? Is it on? It is on. Sweet. And hang on. Oh, that's not supposed to be like that. That is supposed to be like that. There we go. Yeah, good enough. Sorry, I'm reusing some of the scenes. Oh, here's what it is. Live stream overhead cam. Yeah, that's the right one. That's the right one. Ooh, almost to 9,500. I'm at 9,490 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, it'd be great if you did. You know what? I totally forgot. I got totally into what we were going to talk about tonight and didn't run through everybody who's here. Travelers Travels was first. Appreciate you guys being here. Mad Investor, Rizzo529, Vinny Del Greco. Let's see. Les the Dog C57, Black Cat Team, Frogman, Burn, Automatic Beats, Cook 4015. We need the old non-prawn music back. This is not prawn music. It's totally not prawn music. Integra Guy 04, good evening. Crypto MB. Let's see who else. Turtle Tech, the Toxic Miner, Northern Crypto and Tech. And for everybody that said, sorry for my loss, I do appreciate that. Let's see who else. Hesh Rico. Sunflower Mama is watching in the other room. See, her desk kind of gets taken. So my son is home for the funeral. So he just got home yesterday. So he kind of takes over her desk. So right now his laptop with his laptop cooler is on the desk. So it kind of gets in her way from getting in her computer. So she is most likely watching on her phone. Or a tablet. She just yelled from the other room, or tablet. No, this is not Panda's 5090. Panda had a box for a 5090 on his stream today, and he was being really coy about it. And it was really annoying. It was really annoying because it was a box. It wasn't like somebody said, oh, it's paper launch. And I'm like, no, it's a box. It looked like a real 5090 box. If that wasn't a real 5090 box, man, kudos to him. Had me going, that's for sure. But mine is a Zotac. Anyway, but it's a nice Zotac. I'll show you guys in a second. So look, I many cups. I'm sure I'll hear from the other room, but oh, so many cups. Yeah, I guess you guys can probably see them. Yes. This was my dinner cup. This is the cup I normally drink water out of. And that's my coffee cup. And it goes well since it's a Bitcoin coffee cup. But it's only 3. Only 3. All right. Sorry. Black sales. And that's about it. I think I got everybody. Let's see how many people are here. We got 35 people here so far. But anyway, so this is my Zotac 5090 that I just got yesterday. I have last night I decided I was going to tape a video about getting this 5090, and I will still be putting that out there. And so this isn't about that story. It's about what I did when I was taping it. So of course, what did I forget? I was muted. So I had done the entire unboxing muted. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll do a voiceover and I'll just do like what I have here with just, a small, window like this. That'll be from the voiceover. Cool. The problem was I could not. So I'm using Descript and I could not figure out how to, when you do a cut in the scene, to change the size of your main screen. So for most of it, I wanted it small, but for the beginning, I wanted it big. So even if I added in something else, it wasn't working. So anyway, bottom line is with Descript, you can put layers in, but anything within a single layer, you can't change from scene to scene. You can't change the dimension of that window in that scene from any of the other scenes. So that was really frustrating because I couldn't figure out what to do. And then I figured out, oh, wait a minute. I just need to cut this and then bring it up into its own layer. And then I can make it whatever size I want or make it the main thing. So that's what I eventually figured out how to do late last night, and I'm like, I need to go to bed. And then today just was a lot of different things. Was doing research for tonight. And I just never got to it. Never got it completely done. I'm close. So I'll probably finish it up tomorrow and probably publish it tomorrow morning, most likely. That will be the goal. But there were a bunch of other things that happened yesterday. So as I said, I got the 5090 yesterday. Somebody on, just the short story of it, somebody on Discord said they were waiting in line for a couple other people. They all said no. I said, hey, what about me? I can be there in an hour. They're like, cool. Hey, if you got any extra computer parts, bring them. I said, okay, cool. Brought some extra computer parts, gave me the voucher, bought the 5090, gave them the computer parts, and we were all good. And I was on my way home to finally meet with a different electrician. So it was good and bad. Guy was nice. The problem is, well, let's talk about the good part. The good part is he was significantly less than everybody else. He was under $3,000. And the guy definitely knew what he was talking about. He was actually a backup electrical inspector for a nearby town. He knew who the electrical inspector was for our town. I knew the guy's name. So I knew, he mentioned the guy's name. So I'm like, okay, cool. So that was all good. The price was all good. Not less than 3,000 included the extra circuits. I'm like, awesome. Only problem is he will not reconnect my solar system. I have to have somebody else come out to do that. He's like, I'm not going to touch it because I'll get blamed for anything that goes wrong with it. I'm like, seriously, you're connecting up a few wires. How the heck can you affect that? So I'm going to talk to him again about that, because honestly, there's no way for him to affect that. I mean, it is like the easiest thing to do. You get what's called a split nut, because I have a line side tap, and basically it just runs in directly below the meter where the meter is going down to the panel, and this split nut attaches between the meter and the panel, and the split nut basically goes through the insulation, makes contact with the conductor. The main conductors, there's 3 of them, neutral, positive, and negative. And then you basically wire in the other wires from the solar system. I mean, you're just unconnecting it and reconnecting it. So he was saying, you're going to have somebody else come out. Well, if I have somebody else come out, that means I'm going to have the meter removed twice, unless the electrical company is willing to do it with basically on a live wire. And it is, from what I've seen, it is actually safe to do on a live wire. But certainly creeps me out. I wouldn't be willing to do it. But again, I'm not an electrician, so I don't know. I definitely like the price a lot. It's for a 40 spot panel. The other thing I thought of was, instead of doing a line side tap, actually putting it into a breaker, which would be kind of nice, because then I'd be able to monitor it better. But then I'd have to pay somebody to rewire it from basically with a longer wire, which isn't going to be hard. Hell, I could rerun the wire. Just need to run a longer wire of the correct conductor size, and then run it directly into the panel. And considering the size of my solar system in a 200 amp panel, would not be a big deal. The only thing is that it eats into the 120% rule, and that's what worries me a little bit, because then I wouldn't be able to go as high in adding additional circuits whenever I want. So I don't know. Still have some things to figure out there. I want to basically send him an email talking to him about adding the split nut himself, or hell, letting me do it while he's there, because I'll do it. And then he can put it on me. I don't care. It's not difficult to do at all. It's like literally stupid easy. It basically, the wire that you put into the split nut, when you put the split nut around the wire between the meter and the panel, and you put it through that, and then the other one you actually like slide through, but you're still going through the insulation. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's making progress. It's definitely at a price where I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to do it. Wife's not thrilled that, they're going to need to cut into drywall because they're going to have to put in a bigger conduit between the panel and the meter. But whoever was going to do it was going to have to do that. So take the good with the bad. Hey, we'll be able to pay a contractor to come out and just do some drywall work, which would definitely be the difference between what this guy's under 3,000 and what the other guys were charging. So definitely happy about that. And the other thing I was researching today, I definitely decided that I'm going to double the output of the window well with adding an additional fan. There is room to put 2 fans there. Exactly how we're going to do it, we're not sure. We might overlap the flanges from the fans. We may not. We have to figure that out. But either way, it's definitely going to be able to fit 2 fans down there. So in order to make the job easier, and she's had need for this before, is decided to buy a jigsaw for Sunflower Mama. And so I am getting her a 6.5-inch corded Bosch jigsaw. We don't use tools enough to really warrant having battery powered, because we'll be like, oh, the battery's not charged. And batteries are more of a hassle, honestly, than cords for us. So anyway, I got a recorded version. Like I said, 6.5 amp should give her a lot better tools to use, a better tool to use than she did the last time, where she had to, she was using a circular saw to try to cut open the opening. And that was not ideal, shall we say. So that'll probably be happening sometime this week, maybe. Not sure. We're figuring that out. But changes. Obviously going to be adding another 600 or so, 575 watts, although I'm taking out 200 watts. So it's a net of about 350 to 400 watts difference with adding this downstairs. But yeah, basically be putting this on Vast. And so that's kind of all the changes in the basement. I'm not sure I might have anything on Salad though. Because what I plan on doing with the extra 3060 Ti is making a dual 3060 Ti rig on one of my T7810s, but you can't have dual GPUs on Salad. So I haven't decided yet, but I'm probably going to put it on Clore. I think Retro Mike had said it was good, so I'm probably going to do that. Hey, Enable, good to see you, sir. Which panel did he specify? I don't know. That's one of the questions I have to ask him. Because that was another thing I was going to ask him is, hey, what panel did you specify? Did you maybe check to see if that panel could do a line side tap directly to the panel? Because some of them have an extra adapter or something where you can do that. Hang on. Oh, well, thank you, Rizzo. Appreciate you becoming a member. I was just about to scan up. Rizzo529, thank you for the $2 super chat. I very much appreciate that. Oh, shoot. Sorry to hear that. Yeah. Like I said, he lived a long life, long and happy life. My mother died about 13 years ago. So I think he was at the point where he was happy. At the very end, he was happy to finally be with her. Hit like, are we over 60 years old? I am not over 60 years old. All right, let me scroll back down. Wanted to make sure I caught everything. Yep. So yeah, like I said, S-Chain, it's a really good question, because I wanted to ask him that too, because I thought, well, if the panel comes with a specific like line side tap adapter to make it easy, then why not? But then he would definitely have to rerun the wires, because instead of it going directly to where, directly to where the wires are going from the meter to the panel, it just intercepts them. It's now going to go past that interception point and go down about 4 feet. And there is not an extra 4 feet of wire. So again, would just need to completely rerun that wire. Monday's gone. Yes, DJ, I cannot stream on Mondays anymore because I have a job that takes me into second shift. So the only thing I could do is stream in the morning. And I asked that question a while back in a poll, and people said, we'd rather have you do it Sunday night. I'm like, all right, cool. It was less than 40%. It was kind of like the old presidential election where when Clinton won the first time, he didn't even get 50% of the vote. It was kind of like that. But it still was by far the highest voting selection. All said, trust me, she's good with power tools. You would need to be telling me that, not her. Just saying. Yeah, Vinny, I hate drywall. It's so messy. Yeah. Yes, Sunflower Mama is a certified home improvement specialist, but there are things that we like to do and don't like to do. Now, while I think she kind of likes to paint, I've had to tell her, do not ever do that again, because she's put herself in some really dangerous positions trying to get at the ceiling and the high walls that we have. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. Yeah. All said, I'm afraid enough of the power tools to be safe. Yeah. You should have a certain amount of respect, shall we say, for it. So anyway, all right. Well, let me see if I can do this peel and see if you guys can hear it. Hold on. Be very, very quiet. Very quiet ASMR. All right, could you guys hear that? Could you? I was making sure I got everything. I thought I may have left a piece. Yep, I did. All right, there's one little piece left. Anyway, but I don't know. It's a sharp looking card. I really like it. I haven't tried it yet, and who cares what it looks like, right? But that's sharp. It's really sharp. And these fan things they put on the middle of the fans, hopefully they're centered, because they seem like they're pretty heavy. So if they're not centered, it might make them wobble a little bit easier. But yeah, definitely happy with the way it looks. Now let's just hope I don't have a DOA unit, because that would be bad. And I keep knocking out the plugs as I pick it up. But anyway, all right, back to the main camera. All right, let's get into, there's one video I saw today that I really, really liked, and it talks about the current environment, but then gets into like just everybody calm down type of thing. And, you know, what makes you win, that type of thing. So let me pull that up. Let me pull up this one, right? Yep, that is the one. Oh yeah, there's the Nikkei index. But let me get to the video. And I just found this guy on the internet. He's got 220,000 subscribers, but it just really struck a chord with me. It's only 15 minutes. But let me get everything set up. Turn on the desktop audio. And hit play. Hopefully not too many commercials.
For the last few days and weeks, the stock market has been taking an absolute beating. And given what's happening in America, it certainly does feel like this time is different. I know this is causing a lot of stress and concern, even with my own clients who are normally pretty good at shrugging this stuff off. So I expect that no small part of you is also feeling concerned and wondering, what does this mean for markets moving forwards? And is now the time to be moving to cash, or perhaps delay making any further investments? It's at times like these, when emotions are high, that the biggest mistakes are made, which is why this may be one of the most important videos I make for a long time. I have no idea what the stock market is going to do over the next few weeks or months, and you should be very wary of anybody who says that they do. But I want to show you some data that will give you a new perspective on all of this and hopefully set your head straight. So firstly, what has happened? Over the last few weeks, the stock market has been falling in anticipation of what tariffs, if any, Trump will actually introduce. And then on April the 2nd, ironically, the day after April Fool's Day, he announced a sweeping set of tariffs for most of the US's trading partners. As a result, on April 3rd, markets opened down 3.5% on the concern that this could push the US and perhaps other economies into a recession. But let's zoom out a bit. Here we're looking at the FTSE Global All Cap, a global stock market index, which shows us that this has been the biggest fall that we've experienced since the COVID crash, which, if you can believe it, was 5 years ago now. If you're a US investor looking at this chart, you might think that it looks a bit weird. Perhaps you're expecting to see something like this. This is the exact same global index that we were looking at before, but it's priced in dollars. So from the perspective of a US investor, where we can see that the last big sell-off was only in 2022, when the market fell by 26%. But the thing is that we in the UK were actually saved from the worst of that drawdown, because when the US markets were falling, sterling was depreciating against the dollar. However, although exchange rates have shielded UK investors in the past, this time around, as US markets are falling, sterling has been getting stronger and stronger. It's up 8% on the dollar since the beginning of January. So,
have you been thinking about making a career change for months?
Gotta love the commercials.
You want more?
On one hand, this is bad because the currency swing is accentuating this market fall. But on the other, it also means that anything priced in dollars is now 8% cheaper. Because of these currency swings, investors based in the UK have actually had a pretty easy ride over the last 5 years, which makes it easy to get complacent and forget just how uncertain and painful stock markets can be at times. So the first thing that I want to help put into perspective is just how often market events like this happen. At a high level, everybody loves the idea of investing in the stock market because they...
All right, answer a couple of questions. BMO, hey, no, sorry, that was not it. Where is my Razer keyboard? No, I got a replacement. I like this keyboard much better. My Black Widow actually was one of the things I gave away. I got tired. The dial on the right-hand side was just a pain in the butt. It needed to be cleaned out, and it was going to have to be cleaned out again and again and again. It was a bad design, so I was done with it, and I didn't want to really sell something that was broken, so I gave it to the guy that I got the 5090 from. That was one of the things I gave away. And what else? There was something else somebody had said. S. Chang says, isn't your solar system supposed to be connected to the panel with its own breaker? Why does it need to be tapped into the power line? It doesn't need to be. It can be tapped into the line side. It does not have to be tapped into the load side. And the benefit of that is it isn't taking up any panel capacity. So that's the benefit, and it's safe. So it's not a problem. It is a common installation. Some places don't like it, but it is common that that it is fine. It's a well accepted practice of it. In mine, I didn't have any room in the panel to even put it. So there was not an option of putting it into the panel. So there's that. Now, when you need to change anything, it is kind of nice because now you have the solar hooked into the panel and you just turn off that breaker if you're going to do anything with it. So there is that benefit, but there is an outside shutoff. So if you are doing anything with it, you do have that. And that's a requirement, whether it's line side tap or not. So there you go. And fear and greed index at 17. Not a surprise. Not a surprise. All right. Let me start up again.
Here that you can achieve returns of 9 or 10% per year on average. And at least in the past, that is broadly true, depending on which market you're looking at. Here we're looking at the S&P 500 and the calendar returns achieved over the last 100 years. On average, it has delivered a return of about 10% per year. But there's only been 6 years where it actually returned 10%. The rest of the time, returns have been a lot more volatile. Sometimes it's been up a lot, sometimes it's been down a lot. Now looking at this, the US market has been down about 1 in every 4 years, and only had falls of greater than 10% in 1 in every 10. Which suggests
1 in every 10.
that the decline that we're currently witnessing is quite rare. But looking at calendar year performance like this is actually quite misleading because it hides what's actually happening within those years. Here, however, we're looking at the Russell 3000, which tracks the performance of the 3,000 largest companies in the US. And this shows us what's actually happening within each calendar year. And it tells a very different story. If we take 1998 as an example, the circle indicates the calendar year performance, which ended up about 20%. Then the green bar indicates the highest gain achieved in that year from trough to peak. And the red line indicates the greatest fall from peak to trough. So even though the market ended the year up 20%, there was a point in the year where the market had fallen by over 20%. That is a massive swing in such a short period of time. But this perspective shows us that those types of movements are actually pretty common. Even in years that end up with positive results, they often have big drawdowns somewhere within them.
Exactly.
Which goes to show that drawdowns like the one we're experiencing now are often just momentary blips on an otherwise upwards trajectory. To put that into numbers, over the last 100 years, the S&P 500 has had a drawdown of 5% or worse in almost every single year. 10% or worse in 63% of years.
Almost 2 out of 3.
20% or worse in 26% of years. So
1 out of 4.
yes, although stock markets have delivered strong returns over the long term, the journey to that return has been very bumpy. And given that we're currently sitting here, I hope this puts into perspective that the volatility we're experiencing at the moment is not unusual at all. However, what is unusual is what's actually causing this particular sell-off. We have never seen anything like this before, which makes it feel like this time is different. It is different. And if it's making you feel uncomfortable,
well, dude, you need to look at history. Not exactly never happened like this before. Smoot-Hawley back in 1930, it was being discussed and being threatened about 3 months before the big crash of 29. So that did have an effect on why the drop happened in the first place. And then when it went into place, it just exacerbated it. So that's a well accepted fact by historians. So has it happened before? Yes. In the same way? Not exactly. Certainly the proposed tariffs were not this high. So, all right, let's continue.
I'm not surprised. It makes me feel uncomfortable too. But discomfort and fear are two very different things. If you've been investing for any long period of time, you should be used to feeling uncomfortable by now. Because behind every single one of these drawdowns was some other narrative that felt extremely worrying at the time. I don't want to belittle the risks of today, but I think it's also important to recognize how the media and recency bias can make the events of today and the uncertainty of the future seem way worse than anything that we've experienced before. With hindsight, it's hard to fully appreciate how things felt in the past. When Russia invaded Ukraine, when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, when COVID hit, when Trump had his last trade war with China, Brexit, the list goes on.
Oh, well, the one he really didn't hit, which is the big bottom, is the banking collapse of 2008. I mean, that was a really, really bad year. Really bad year. and there was a lot of worry. But yet, the next year, look at what happened. We had a boomer of a year from trough to peak. It was like 75%, if I'm reading that chart correctly, in 2009. So anyway, I'll let him continue, but basically he's saying, calm the F down.
I'm not dismissing the risks of today. Things could very well get worse from here. But I'm just making the point that although the catalyst of today is different, the market has taken hits like this before and still gone on to deliver great returns over the long term and often in the short term too. With that said, no matter how experienced an investor you are, when the markets fall and the headlines are full of bad news, there will be some part of you that thinks, maybe now is just not a good time to be invested. Maybe I should be sitting on the sidelines and just wait for things to clear up. I get it. A part of me feels like that too. Any human would. It's not natural to want to throw money into something that is going down. But let's just try and get a bit of perspective on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why everybody's going to cash, because everybody feels that way right now. So what happens? Everybody acts on those feelings, and a great percentage of people moves to cash or moves to much lower risk investments. That's the reason why you'll see that, especially good dividend producing stocks, they've gone up. And obviously bonds, the value of bonds have gone up as well.
Although sitting in cash might sound like a sensible thing to do, how often does that actually work out? If we look back at all of the global stock market drawdowns we've had over the last 50 years, after a 10% market decline, on average, over the following year, markets were up 11.9%. Over the following 3 years, up 43.5% in total, and 70% over 5 years. After a 20% decline, up 17% on average over the next year, up 24% over 3 years, and 50% over 5 years. And after a 30% decline, up 6% over 1 year, 32% over 3 years, and 78% over 5 years. And what's interesting about this particular drawdown is that it's largely being caused by one man, a man who changes direction every few minutes. And although there is a risk that this could get a lot worse, there is also a risk that it could rip the other way just as quickly. And if it does, sitting on the sidelines could dramatically affect your long-term returns. Over the last 20 years, the S&P 500 has achieved an average annual return of 10.4% per year, in line with long-term averages. But if you were sitting on the sidelines and missed the 10 best trading days over that period, you would have only achieved a 6.1% return. If you'd missed the 20 best trading days, you would be down to just 3.5%. It's incredible to see what an enormous difference just a few days can make. Now, the counter argument to this is that if by sitting out of the market you were able to miss one of the worst trading days, you could be in a substantially better position. The problem, however, is that the best and worst trading days often follow each other in quick succession. 7 of the best 10 trading days over this period occurred within 2 weeks of the 10 worst trading days. So if you're going to try and play this game and guess what the market is going to do from day to day or month to month, it's like trying to catch a falling knife. It's gambling. It's not investing. In fact, if you are thinking about selling out, it's actually more like trying to catch a falling knife twice, because not only do you need to get out at the right time, but you also need to get back in at the right time. And as Nick Kolas, the veteran equity researcher, said, getting out is easy, but getting back in is hard. I've seen every major market low since the 1980s, and none of them were even remotely obvious. So there is a very real risk that if you do this, you could get left on the sidelines. Looking back over the last 35 years, if at any point in time you had decided to either cash out of the market or delay making an investment and instead kept your money in a competitive savings account, if you'd held on to that position for a 3-month period, compared with the performance of a globally diversified 60% stock and 40% bond portfolio, you would have been down 61% of the time and down 1.6% on average. If you had stayed in cash for 6 months, you would have been down 72% of the time for an average underperformance of 5.5%. And if you had stayed in cash for a full year, you would have been down 79% of the time and underperformed by 9.1% on average. I don't think that there is a clearer indication of why time in the market beats trying to time the market. Now, I'm sure the left side of your brain finds this type of data comforting, but when it comes to making decisions like this, it's normally our emotions that take over. I spoke with a client about this just yesterday who is grappling with this very issue. We have agreed that he should invest a significant lump sum into the markets. This is money that he can afford to invest for the long term, and the stock market is likely to give him the best chance of achieving his long-term goals. It is the right thing for him to do, and he knows it, but he's finding it very hard to push the button because markets have fallen recently, which I completely understand. It's a significant amount of money and his emotions are up.
Yeah, dollar cost average.
The thing that I find funny about this is that if the markets had gone up by 10% over the last few weeks instead of falling by 10%, he'd probably have no problem investing at all. He'd be dying to get in, even though he'd be buying in at a price that is 20% higher than where we are today. The stock market is the only thing that the more expensive it gets, the more we want to buy in. And when the price comes down, we don't want anything to do with it. It's madness. Everybody thinks that the biggest challenge when it comes to investing is choosing what to invest in. But that's actually the easy part. The biggest challenge is actually managing your own emotions and learning to see past your own bias, to stop yourself getting in your own way and making bad decisions. Most people think that the more active you are as an investor, the more you try and use your intuition to second guess the markets, the better your results are likely to be. But that is the exact opposite of what happens. The more decisions that you make, the more stress it causes you, the more mental energy you consume, and the more opportunity there is for your emotions to get in the way and leads to poor decision making. This is why simplicity and automation are such powerful tools when it comes to investing. The beauty of passive investing is that there are no decisions to be made, because if you're doing it properly, you should already own everything. You're not making a bet on any one country or sector outperforming. You already own the world, so you're betting on the continued ingenuity and prosperity of the human race, which, when given enough time, has overcome every obstacle that has ever been thrown at it, no matter how big and orange that may be. If you're truly a passive investor, you don't waste your precious time and mental energy questioning whether you should be changing your strategy, because there is only one strategy. And you also know that no one can reliably predict what the stock market is going to do in the short term. So don't. Work out how much you can afford to invest each month and then set up a direct debit and invest on autopilot. And if you can,
commercials.
Don't look at your account balance, especially when the headlines are bad. The stock market can be an incredibly painful place in the short term. But if it's out of sight, it is out of mind. And if you can do these things, if you can reduce the number of decisions that you need to make and remove emotions from them, not only will it free up your time to focus on the rest of your life, but you're likely to end up with better results than the vast majority of other investors out there. But don't just take this from me. Look at this. Between 1992 and 2003, the UK stock market delivered an average return of 9% per annum. But the average UK equity fund only delivered a return of 6.9%. This is yet another example of how professional active fund managers, whose job it is to predict what the markets are going to do next, typically fail to do so. But that's not the main point that I want to make here. Because what's even more interesting is that the average investor in these funds did even worse, achieving a return of just 4.9% per year, which is due to the fact that they are buying in and out of these funds or switching between them at all of the wrong times. The phenomenon that investors' poor behavior tends to result in them underperforming the funds that they invest in is well documented across both active and passive funds. And it's particularly pronounced when a period of strong market performance is followed by a crash, which is exactly what happened during this period. Because it's only after the markets have already gone up that many investors want to get in. And then when the markets start to fall, they bail out, which is exactly what we're seeing in today's market. Now, 18 months ago, back in October 2023, I made a video called Why Holding Cash Now is a Terrible Idea If You Ever Want to Retire. I made that video because at the time, interest rates had just gone up a lot, which was making holding cash and sitting on the sidelines look very attractive in comparison with investing in the stock market, which had been going through a bit of a rough patch. And most analysts were predicting that the US market was about to go into a recession. Since I made that video, the global stock market is up about 30%, even including the most recent market crash. And although that was a complete coincidence, I had no idea that that was going to happen so quickly, I highly suggest that you watch that video right now, because in there are some incredibly important lessons that are very relevant for today.
We're not going to watch that video, but I think all of this is extremely relevant to where we are today. Don't worry. Don't get out now. And I know that we're going to see probably some down. I knew today was going to be a bad day. Monday. We're already into Monday in Japan and China. But the key will be where we end up by the end of the day. If you look at last Monday, we had a really significant drop at the very beginning of the day. And then the rest of the day came back up. Actually, last Monday came up to almost exactly where it started. I don't think we're going to see that this time. But I do think that the initial drop will be much worse. Assuming that the markets that drop will still be able to continue to trade through the end of the day, because certain circuit breakers may go into effect. And we'll have to see if that goes into effect in the US if we trip any circuit breakers. You have a circuit breaker at 7% and another circuit breaker at 13% with 15% breaks. And then 20% is like, okay, you're done for the day. Wait until tomorrow. So we'll see. Yeah, I know, DJ. Yeah, look at the S&P 500 last 90-year chart. If that doesn't convince people, nothing will. Exactly. Some of the things he talked about, and the reason why I brought this up was I was surprised at how often we see a 10% drop, like 2/3 of the time. A 20%, right? It was a 20% drop. Yeah, 20% drop was 1 out of every 4 years we see a 20% drop. So that the amount of times that we see that in a year surprised me. I didn't think it was that often. Well, right now we're about at the 20% drop. We'll probably go further than that. But it did say 1 in every 10 years we have a 40% drop or more. When was the last time? Actually, once in 20 years that we have that much. It was 1 in every 10 years. It was a 30% drop. But the last time we had that big of a drop in a year, not spiked, but in a year, I believe was 2008. I'm not sure exactly where that ended up though. I'd have to go back to the chart. But yeah, we've done really well in the markets. There has not been a really bad period of time. We've been in a long-term growth for quite a while where the markets have done well. So regardless of what's happening, this is kind of due. I'm not saying it's an excuse as to why it's happening, but yeah, I think we were seeing this. But it is, I can tell you right now, when you see this big of a drop in the stock market, 6 months from now, we're in a recession. Have no doubt in my mind. Certainly by the beginning of fourth quarter, they will announce that we're now in a recession. Be prepared. Be prepared. Get alternate forms of income lined up, especially if you're in an industry that could be subject to layoffs. Just assume you're going to get laid off, even though you think there's no way. Trust me. Been there. Didn't think there was any way. But yet it happened. So just do what you can to make yourself as prepared as you can. Just makes sense. Let me see what else. Yeah, Douglas Hand. I don't think it's done yet. I honestly, I see that we could certainly hit 30-40% down. I see that coming. The only question is how much of that is going to come out of crypto. Is crypto going to be down that percent? Not sure. So one of the things with crypto, so first off, if it's a world market decline, which is what it's looking like now, it'll probably have very little effect on the dollar. But if there's more of an effect on the US market, it most likely will lower the value of the dollar. Well, you lower the value of the dollar, and Bitcoin price versus the dollar will go up if it stays equal against all other currencies. So you could actually see Bitcoin and other altcoins actually go up a little bit or not go down as much because of the value of the dollar. But all the companies in the S&P 500, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, they're all primarily in US dollars. So whatever hits they're going to take as a result of the perceived declines that they're going to see in business, those are all going to be in dollars. So the value of the dollar doesn't necessarily matter as much. But I will say is that the value of the dollar coming down, that makes other currencies stronger against ours, which means us exporting, the tariffs won't hit as hard. Whoever's value of their currency is going up, and this is one of the arguments that Trump made, was that China has manipulated the value of the dollar to their benefit, making their goods cheaper. So I get that argument, and he's not wrong. That's a totally different subject than the level of tariffs. But they're the only economy that was strong enough, and the only government strong enough that could actually do that. None of the other countries were doing that. All right. Enough on that. I just kind of wanted to calm everybody down about what's going on in the markets. I know that Vinny just put in there that China market's down 10% at the open. Again, it's going to be blood in the water today. No question. Just be prepared. Look past it. If you have some money on the side, could put some money in. There could be some more blood in the water for the rest of the week, for all we know. But take a little bit at a time. And over time, when it comes back, you'll be happier for it. You'll definitely be happier. Right now, I have the only buy I've got in right now is Bitcoin at 73.5. And it is still, it went back up to 79. It was at 78. Now it's back up at 79. And yeah, it looks like everything's kind of started to recover, just not recover, has leveled off, shall we say. It's come up just a little bit from where it was. But yeah, everything seems to be down somewhere between 8 and 15%. Litecoin's down 4%. Let's see. Like I said, Bitcoin's down 5%. Ethereum's down 11.5%. Solana's down 10.8%. Let's see. Chainlink is down 11%. Avalanche is down 8%. DOT is down 6.73%. I actually like that price on DOT. Decisions. I don't have that much money on this on the sidelines right now, though, so I'm kind of really debating on whether to cancel my buy at 73.5 and buy something today, because I do like buying on Sundays. Sunday Bloody Sunday, because it typically is. It's usually, I have found, one of the lowest days, or the lowest day of the week. I haven't looked at the statistics. It's just been kind of what I have noticed. Let's see. Flux was below 20. Oh, Flux is back over 20 cents. It was in the 19s a little while ago. Helium is down 15%. Let's see if there's anything else. Zephyr's down 28%. It has had some really big recent gains. Neoxa, wow. That just keeps going down. Neox is down almost 16%. Wow. Alrighty. All right, let me go back to over here. What else? So we talked about that. And if you guys have any questions, hit me up. Put them in the chat. I promise I'll read them in a second. I already talked about that. Yeah, I ran through a lot of things already. Oh, I guess it has been almost an hour, or has been about an hour, so that's not, I guess, that hard to figure out. So Vast actually has been doing really, really well for me. And please tag me. Please tag me. Also, it says, if you're going to buy Max, I say save it for 76,550. I know that that's a level, but there's also another level about 73.5. Although probably should set a little bit higher, because that one has been like, I had set it a long time ago, and now after that, I mean, it's it's not rocket science. You can see the resistance levels, and a lot of people had kind of settled in as that being like the low resistance level. Because if you go beyond that, it rode up so quickly to that point that there wasn't much support below it, that it could go all the way down into the 50s. Let's see. Okay. I have not tested the 5090 yet. I have not tested it. It is still sitting right on my desk. I'm probably going to do that at the very end. Yeah, FYI, the dips keep dipping. Yeah, I'm trying to show some patience. Like I said, I have already reinvested a bunch of things that I had sold when it dipped back down. So I don't have that much left to invest. I'm just trying to figure out how, as far as when I'll put that money back in. But again, I'm not worried. It will come back at some point. As with anything, people will have patience to a point. And at some point, if anything a president does or Congress does has a significant negative effect over a long period of time, people won't have patience. They can be patient now because they haven't lost their jobs yet. And only thing they've lost is, for a lot of people, long-term investments that they say, well, it'll come back. That's what you have right now. So people can have patience. Some people can have patience. A lot of people can have patience. I can have patience. But when they start losing their job, when there's very deep losses where you're like, I just invested all that money and now look at what I have to show for it. Oh, and what's the news saying? And what are the experts saying? If we just undid all of this. So that's going to be real interesting. I mean, that probably, I'm guessing, wouldn't happen until a recession has been announced. So I'm talking like end of the year at the earliest, where you might see, something, be undone. And of course, we all hope that what ends up happening is that this is all a negotiation ploy and countries come to the table and agreements are reached. It will be interesting to see if companies who are going to get wrecked by these tariffs because of contracts they have, because contracts they have for their suppliers so that they can manufacture here already, if those companies are going to go to the White House and beg and offer something up to the president, much like the law firms have done. And it'll be interesting to see if that's what happens, so that there's a number of exemptions. But we'll see. We'll see. That hasn't happened yet. V-shaped recovery. Well, I hope it's a V-shaped recovery. I'm guessing it's more like a U-shaped recovery. I think for the next 6 months, the economy, and I'm not talking about the markets, I think we'll see from the market perspective, well, it really kind of depends, because now you have China retaliating. Is the U.S. again going to retaliate, or are they just going to leave it? So if you have this tit for tat continuing to go back and forth, it will just exacerbate the problems. But if it's now steady, I think people will kind of have a wait and see approach. We'll see a little bit, whatever it levels out at as far as a bottom. I think over the next couple of months, we'll see a small increase, maybe 5 to 10%. And then it will just level off there for a while. But I don't know. That's just my prediction. We'll see. Not financial advice. None of this is financial advice. Just a matter of things go up, things go down. Overall, things will go up. Denied. We are a tariff-based economy, no income tax. Yusuf, you haven't done the math. You have not done the math. There will be income tax. There is no way to, we'd have to have 130% tariffs across everything, which that doesn't take into account that when there's 130% tariffs and people are paying the tariffs, it's a tax. It's a tax, not an income tax, but it's still a tax. And that's not going to happen. They cannot raise the tariffs that high. They won't. So it would be idiotic because there are things we need from other parts of the world, like rare earth metals. We do need those from other parts of the world. Anyway, say all you want. We're going to have income tax. The president cannot unilaterally say we no longer have income tax. It is not within his part of the Constitution, although he should all over the Constitution at this point. But the courts will keep him in line, and there's no way that will happen. So we'll see. Reciprocal tariffs, they are not. That's been proven. Reciprocal tariffs would mean we are tariffing other countries exactly what they are tariffing us. And that is not the case. They took the trade deficit that we had with the country. That's what they based it upon. They didn't base it upon the actual tariff itself. And geez, we had a trade deficit with Madagascar where their GDP per person is less than $1,000. So yeah, they don't buy anything from us because they don't buy anything. But yet we buy things from them. It's just absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. All right. No, we were not better off. You need to look at your history, Yusuf. If you look at the early 1900s when they started to do heavy tariffs, it was like 1913, 1912. There was the mini depression near the end of the 19s, before the Great Depression. And then when we started doing really, really well with the New Deal obviously encompassed a lot of different things, but one of the main things was Franklin Delano Roosevelt went out and talked with all the world leaders and said, hey, we want free trade. We're good. Work with us again. And that he had to work really hard to get people to buy and trust the United States. That's the biggest thing right now is, look, the United States is a small part of the world. Most of the stuff that we produce here, other parts of the world don't need. They don't need it, or they can, not that they don't need it, but they can get it from somewhere else. Great example is soybeans. Soybeans from China. China used to buy a lot of soybeans from us. And when the first tariffs went into effect, they used to import $12 billion worth of soybeans. Well, when the tariffs went into effect, they went down to $4 billion, and they found alternate markets in Ukraine and Brazil. And then when there was some sort of agreement that came out, they still only went up to $8 billion. So they were still down by 33% as a result of the original tariffs that went into place. This time it will be worse. BRICS became a trading bloc. They now trade mainly with each other. We're not in that. So we are basically alienating the entire world to push themselves to trade with other partners that have better terms. It's that simple. It really is that simple. So we are tariffing everybody coming into this country, as far as all products coming into this country, to try to get them to manufacture here. And their thinking is, put yourself in their shoes. Don't think about us. Put yourself in their shoes. You're a manufacturer that manufactures products in the EU, in China, in Vietnam. Are you going to just say, okay, my products are going to cost 96% more if you're Vietnam? I forget, it's like 90%, something like that. 90% more. Oh, I'm going to sell the same amount at the same profit margin. No, you're not. You aren't. You are not. Supply and demand. When price goes up, demand will go down. Simple economics. So you're going to be focused on growing your markets anywhere but the United States. That's what you're going to be doing. So anyway, all right. Geek, good. You missed all the other stuff. So glad to have you here. So should we talk about our little project or not? Because you kind of let the cat out of the bag today. No, we're done with tariff talk now. If Yusuf brings it back up, I will just ignore him. Yes, you're right. Exactly, Lucas. They've done that because they can't trust us to have steady tariffs. Okay, cool. So, Goat had a, well, it was kind of like a regular video, but it was kind of a short because of the way he filmed it. I don't know. I've been really confused by your shorts lately, Goat, because it's been coming up as regular videos to me. Whatever. Good video, nonetheless. He is building basically an off-site NAS, an off-site storage unit. And where's that going to be? That is going to be here. And I am going to create an off-site NAS, not as fancy as his, that's for sure. Mine's going to be a cheapo. I'm actually using an HP Elite Desk computer and putting two 10 terabit drives in it. I'm going to try to do that. And I actually have right here is my second 10 terabit drive. I have another 10 terabit drive over there. I actually have a couple of 10 terabit drives because the person I bought them from, they have all the same serial numbers. They've been like completely wiped, and you can't have two of those drives in the same system and have it like work with TrueNAS or Unraid or anything like that. So I'm actually going to install TrueNAS on this system. I do not want to have to pay for Unraid on this system. I have one system with Unraid. I like it. I just don't want to pay for it. And I've never used TrueNAS before. So I've used Proxmox, I've used Unraid. Now I want to try out TrueNAS. So I'm going to install that on that HP Elite Desk and do a RAID 0. So just mirrored drives, and might see about maybe getting one more 10 terabit drive. I don't think I can fit more than two in there. So I'm pretty sure I'm stuck with two. But I'm wondering if I can fit one instead of a 3.5 inch. I wonder if I can get a 2.5 inch 10 terabit drive that might fit. That would probably be a little bit pricey, but we'll see. But right now, I'm backing up both of my computers to the Unraid, the NAS, and it's like 6 or 7 terabytes of data, and so I'll be looking to back up that data to an offsite NAS, because they basically there's a 3, 2, 1, and I forget exactly how it goes. It's 3 copies. I don't know, the one is one offsite, and so a lot of people use cloud storage in order to have that offsite, but that can be expensive over time. So that's why Goat and I have been talking about this for a little bit, of basically backing up each of our systems. And I was thinking I was just going to back it up to his stuff to my Unraid, and then he can just, encode it so that I can't see it, trust but verify, don't trust me, type of thing. But he decided to go this route. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And that's what a lot of people do. They'll like take a server and put it at a relative's house, and then back up to it. So anyway, so we'll probably be in a couple weeks, probably be putting something out, and I have to create mine. He's in the process of creating his. I have everything I need, I think, in order to create mine, but I have to load it up and such. So I will be taking down, oh, it's going to hurt me so much, one of my ETCMC nodes, which has gone nowhere. And actually talking about ETCMC, Geek of All Trades, 3 copies of your data, 2 different storage media, 1 offsite location. Yeah, exactly. Fireproof. If you have it offsite, What are the odds of his house burning down at the same time as mine? Just saying. That's not meant as a challenge to anybody. Just saying though. Anyway, sorry, going back to ETCMC. So they now, you are required to stake 11,100. Well, it was, I don't know if it's changed yet. It might change to even higher, but 11,100 ETC POW, which right now I think is like, well, last time I checked, it was like $80 or something. It wasn't that much, but I only have 4,000. Do I really want to buy more ETCMC with where it's heading? No. So I've got, I don't know, probably like 150 ETC POW on my node that I'm just going to basically lose, which whatever, it's fine. Not too worried about it. I still won't lose my 4,000 that I've already earned. And I still have 2 other nodes that are running. It's just that I'll lose that amount. I had actually asked them, I said, well, what if I try to request a payout from the node? What happens? And they basically said, you won't be able to. And they're right. I tried requesting one and like, no, it says, no, you don't have the proper amount staked. So it knows that you don't have it staked. So that sucks. But the other ones I have continued running, what I figured was I'll get to the point where I've got a significant portion of it. And then, yeah, I'll take that money, stake it, and it's staked for 30 days. So there's the risk of how much is that going to, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking right now, is that I would then stake it, get a payout, and at the end of the 30 days, take another payout and then unstake it and then just get out. I don't know. Right now it's kind of just, I wouldn't even say a pet project. It's just one of those projects I'm just kind of like, I'll just keep doing it. It's fine. It's fine. All right. Let's see what I missed. Let's see. Keyword trades. I was going to send you a tape drive that you would have to swap out nightly. You can handle that, right? I thought this was going to be a fun project. No, absolutely not. Definitely not that I swap out nightly. Oh my God. Oh my God. Chicago wildfires. Yeah, they don't have a lot of wildfires in Chicago. That's not that they don't happen. Yes, so there's a chance. Very remote chance. Cody's just trying to stick it to Iron Mountain. Actually, my boss actually used to work for Iron Mountain, so that's why I kind of got a kick out of that one. Wow. So I just read what S. Chang said, and all I saw was like Merry Christmas. But what he wrote was, oh, house burning, wondering why Goat would want to back up to Max's NAS. And I saw Max NAS as Christmas. Anyway. Let's see. The Great Chicago Fire. Well, yeah, but that's because the cow kicked over a lantern. Now, if I wouldn't back it up to my sister's place, because a cow kicking over a lantern could actually happen because she's on a farm. I don't think they have any lanterns, though. Pretty sure they're a little more up to date than that. Well, you know, actually, Galaxy 9 Synthesis, I did think about that. And I'm like, yeah, if we lived in an area like LA where wildfires are known, yeah, then maybe that's not such a great idea. But still, the odds of that happening are remote, but not impossible. Definitely not impossible. Let's see. What's overkill? Oh, the tape drive. Got it. Yeah, then you have bigger things to worry about than your data. That is very true. Very true. Go tape library rack. They auto rotate the tapes every 4 hours. Sure, it's loud and annoying, but not your house, not your annoyance. It's all right. It's all right. I don't think Sunflower Mama would like that. No, I'm not going to use iDrive. Why would I want to give him my money? I thought about using iDrive. Certainly, they're a good option, but I don't want to pay it. I mean, 10 terabytes of data is expensive. Let's see. Very true, but things happen. Not exactly, Yusuf. I didn't now that you just connected the dots for me. I saw the $135 a month and I did not know why he was talking about that. But 2 gig up and down, that's nice. That is very nice. I should actually, in about a year, I should be able to get 2 gig up and down for less than that, less than $100. Right now I've signed up for service with Metronet. Because they did they were trying to garner interest. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to sign up. I could cancel between now and then if I wanted to. I'm not gonna, but yeah, they're going to be putting fiber in here in my town in about a year. They're right now the next town over, which is like, I'm on the opposite side of that next town over. So I'm like 7-8 miles away. So it all depends on how quickly they're going to roll it out and to what areas. So I have my fingers crossed because AT&T fiber is in a portion of the town I'm in, but they reached a quota that was agreed upon with the town before they offered the service to my area. They had actually boxes built and everything for the area that I live, and they basically just left them there. So nobody's using them. They're just sitting there. At least the last time I checked. Might have taken them out by now, but yeah, Metronet. No, actually Metronet is their own last mile. They are their own last mile. Oh, who is it? Last mile 4? I mean, that's one of those things where any company that does last mile for fiber, I mean, they're just going to contract out the long haul. So it's not necessarily any one provider. They may use multiple providers for that. Like I remember when I was in when I was a summer intern in data communications, we had a backhaul that was, they were based in Tulsa. Anyway, they were not AT&T. They were just another company that put down fiber and then offered it to other companies. So there's still a lot of those companies around. So I'm not sure who Metronet uses for their long haul, but it's not rebranding of the service. Let's see. Well, I mean, maybe not as big a deal for us, but if you get multiple providers that are using the same lines in the ground, that's not truly redundant. Just another thing you got to know up front. Yeah, this is not that. So it's not like they're going to be reusing the Comcast lines that are already there. Comcast has fiber to the nodes, but they do not have fiber to your house. So Metronet, as I understand it, everywhere they've gone, they have created the network within the town. So yeah, they're running on poles and all that kind of stuff. So it does take them time to roll out. If they were running on somebody else's stuff, they could do it now. They wouldn't have to wait a year. But in this particular case, they've got a lot of work that they still need to do. Now, with that said, Comcast is not stupid. They know they've got competition for fiber, so they are working hard. And I did have an outage this week that supposedly was for upgrades. It was about a little over an hour outage. So I'm hoping that means that Xfinity will be increasing their speed as well. So yes, I will be keeping Xfinity. Whether it's as backup or main, it all depends on what their speeds are at that point. I may be like splitting it off. Like maybe I'll have the house run mainly on Xfinity. So do like a load balance type of thing and then have it change over. So that way, That's the one thing I don't know. When you do failover, now you're on a different IP address. So if you're on a service where they need to know your IP address, that worries me, because I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to remember if any of the things I'm doing actually have that. But obviously, if you go to a backup, your IP address is going to change, and I would think that would affect things. So I don't know. I know with Flux nodes, they had that issue, but then they incorporated something that basically said it senses if your IP address changes, and then they run like a cron job to fix it. So now it runs on the current IP address. So, but yeah. All right. I've been going for an hour and a half. Any more questions? And then I'll stick around if for people that want to just stick around. I'm going to put the other camera on, and I'm going to start basically rebuilding this computer. Basically putting a new power supply in, and then putting this 5090 into it. And before I install Linux on it or Ubuntu on it, I'm going to boot it up into Windows. And actually before I do that, I need to boot it up into Windows to update the NVIDIA driver so that when I do stick this in, it will recognize it. So I'm going to do that first, then I'm going to rewire everything. So if I get below, say, 20 people, I might just stop it. But if people want to hang out, feel free. I'll check the chat every so often and go from there. So let's see. Swamp 7, I think Retro Mike Tech is the Docker king of around here. I don't know. Swamp 7 knows a lot about Docker. Definitely. He's definitely helped me back when I was mining with background jobs on Vast. He had created a number of Docker containers for miners and made it really, really easy to basically start up one of those. Now, I'm not doing that anymore with the stuff that's not, any of the stuff that's idle. It's just not worth it. Not even close. All right. Well, for those guys that want to stick around, I will put the other camera on and check. Like I said, I'll check back with chat every so often and see where you guys are at. Let me change the screen to that. Okay. So I need to get this out of the way. Get my phone out of the way. Put that over there. Get those out of the way. And bring this over here. And Kurtman just did a 5070 installation guide. Not sure how hard it is to install, but let me grab. I think I got this HDMI cable, so I have a monitor. Hold on a second. Oh, that's because it's the other one, not that one. Where is? I want to make sure I don't spill anything, which I've been known to do. Where is that cable? All right, so there's that one. Unless I don't have it back there. I thought I did. Okay, there's that one. And then this one goes up here. So where does this one go? So one of these cables goes up into the arm. And the other one... Oh, there it is. I found it. just a minute to do it. Doesn't have that far though, so I guess I'm gonna have to turn this sideways so that it will reach. Do not need that reach, that will reach. Just barely, but it'll reach. Now I do not have a mouse to plug in, but I could just use my current mouse. Or I could just use the keyboard. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I will just use the keyboard. I'm going to take the dongle out of my computer.